problems that we really can't fix, and we try, but it's really hard, is the sole of the shoe popping off. The easiest way to remedy this is don't buy cheap shoes. However, occasionally it happens to nicer quality shoes. And the reason we have difficulty fixing it is that all of our glues, we specifically buy glues that have a dry time of 3 hours or less. Most strong shoe glues require much longer dry times. The one that I like is Barges. It's, you can buy it off of Amazon. It's a little blue tube. It takes 15 minutes to set up and smells awful while it is doing so, and then takes 24 hours to fully dry. If your costume's out of commission for 24 hours, it's probably better to go change something else. So that's one of those. We had a shoe problem this morning. We tried plastic epoxy and then used a hairdryer to speed up the cure time. But that's about the best we can do. If it pops off again, it possibly will. The only surefire way is to wrap it in duct tape, but that's not very pretty, so we try not to do that. And like we mentioned before, we can use duct tape to reinforce synthetic fabric. We did have one boot came in one year, the zipper had ripped out, and so we wrapped it. Luckily, he was wearing red boots, and we had red duct tape. So we covered the zipper tape in red duct tape and were able to re-sew the zipper to the vinyl and duct tape. And that seemed to hold. I don't think we saw it again, so that's a pretty good indication. So there are a lot of strong glues. Strong glues come with some certain precautions that you have to take. Specifically, when you're applying them, you should be like Dexter and wear gloves, because he's doing a good job. You want a well-ventilated area. You want to protect your surfaces. You want to dispose of any mixing tools that you were previously using, especially with epoxies where you've got a chemical reaction that's taking place. If you're adding resin and hardener together and then you're trying to add new resin and hardener on top of that old, you could throw off the ratio. I don't know if you work with epoxies, but they do have very specific ratios. If you don't get the ratio right, you either end up with a very weak outcome or you end up with something that stays gooey forever. Neither of those is very appealing. In order to clean it up, acetone, nail polish remover, is the best way to do it while it's still wet. Once it dries, you have to chip it off with a blade. If it gets on your hands, hand sanitizer is pretty good at getting it off because of the alcohol content. There are quite a few glues. Epoxies are probably the more complicated ones because they do have the 1-to-1 ratio. A lot of the quick-set epoxy that we have typically comes in those tubes that are the double syringe. So theoretically, you should be able to get 1-to-1 as long as you don't push up one side more than the other. The caps come with one square end and one round end, so you don't epoxy it shut. Epoxy is good as a filler because it's sort of a plastic glue. So if something breaks off unevenly, you've got little chunks missing, you can sort of push that in and have it fill in the area. It is an exothermic reaction. It will heat up. Don't put it on styrofoam. Just like you would put hot glue on styrofoam, you don't want to put epoxy on styrofoam. You don't want to put too much in a paper cup. Not at the repair station, but we have seen paper cups set on fire by putting too much epoxy in. Generally, you don't want to use a whole lot because, again, the more you use, the hotter it will get. There are specific plastic epoxies, some specific plastic glues. Again, plastics tend to be completely different animals, so you have to get glues that will work for them because they're so smooth. When you're looking at glues, you always want to consider how strong you need the glue to be, what the area is, if it's a large area, if it's a small area, if it needs to be sort of a filler, what material is being glued, and again, this is where that list to that website is really great, and then how long you have. For the repair station, we do try to keep everything under 3 hours, but there are certain times where you really need to get out there quickly, so you might take the super glue, which dries in 15 seconds, rather than the plastic epoxy that takes 15 minutes.